Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, I would like to say thank you to Mim Lasmi who have given us time to present the material. My name is Lu'lu'ul Mukarramah. I am as the moderator of this group and the first speaker. I am not alone here. I am with my friend. They are as the second speaker Misbahul Jannah and the third speaker Husnul Halimatus Sadiyah. I'm here as the first speaker will explain about structure and written expression. The second sentence of the TOEFL test in the structure and written expression section. The section consists of proof question. There are two types of question in the structure and written expression section of the subject. General strategies. Number 1, be familiar with the direction. Number 2, begin with question I talk 15. And number 3, continues with question 16 talk 40. And number 4, if you have time, return to question 11 talk 15. And number 5, never leave any answer blank when your answer sheet. Structure question. Example, blah 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 is taking a trip to New York. A. They. B. When. C. The woman. D. Her. In this example, you should notice immediately that the sentence heard a verb is talking and that the verb needs a subject. Answer B and D are incorrect because when and her are not subject. In answer A, they is a subject but they is plural and the verb is taking is singular. The correct answer is answer C. The woman is a singular subject. You should therefore choose answer C. Strategies for the structure question. Number 1, please study the sentence. Your purpose is to determine what is needed to complete the sentence correctly. Number 2, then study each answer beside 1 how well it completes the sentence. Eliminate answer that do not complete the sentences correctly. Number 3, do not try to eliminate the incorrect answer by looking only at the answer. The incorrect answers are generally correct by themselves. The incorrect answers are generally incorrect only when used to complete the sentence. Number 4, never leave any answer blank. Be sure to answer each question even if you are user of the correct response. And number 5, don't spend too much time on the structure question. Be sure to leave adequate time for the written expression question. Sentence with one clause. Some sentences in English have just one subject and verb, and it is very important for you to fit the subject and verb in tense sentence. In some one sentence, it is easy to fit the subject and verb. Therefore, you should be able to do the following in sentences with one subject and verb. Number 1. Be sure the sentence has a subject and verb. Number 2. Be careful of object of preposition and appositives when you are looking for the subject. And number 3. Be careful of present participle and past participle when you are looking for the verb. Be sure the sentence has a subject and a verb. Example: blah 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 was baked up 4 millions on the ferry. A. Yesterday. B. In the morning. C. Traffic. And D. Cars. In this example, you should notice immediately that there is a verb, was, but there is no subject. Answer C. In the best answer because it is a singular subject that agree with the singular verb was. Answer A. Yesterday. And answer B. In the morning are not subject, so they are not correct. Although answer D. Card could be a subject. It is not correct because cards is plural and it does not agree with the singular verb was. Subject of preposition. Example: with his friend blah 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 bought the movie theater. A. Hers. B. Her. C. Leather. D. When. In this example, you should look first for the subject and the verb. You should notice the verb found and should also notice that there is no subject. Do not think that friend in the subject. Friend in the friend is the subject of the preposition with, and one noun cannot be both a subject and an object at the same time because a subject is needed in this sentence. Answer B. His in the best answer. Answer A, C, and D are not correct because they cannot be subject. Careful of appositives. Appositives can cause a confusion in the structure section of the TOEFL test because an appositive can be mistaken for the subject of a sentence. An appositive is a noun that comes before or after another noun and has the same meaning. Example: Sally, the best student in the class, got an A on the exam. In this example, Sally is the subject of the sentence, and the best student in the class can usually be recognized as an apostrophe phrase because of the noun student and because of the commas. The sentence says that Sally and the best student in the class are the same person. Note that if you leave out the apostrophe phrase, the sentence still makes sense. Sally got an A on the exam. And example 2, blah blah blah, George is attending the lecture. A. Right now. B. Heavily. C. Because of the time. D. My friend. In this example, you should recognize from the commas that George is not the subject of the sentence. George is an apostrophe because this sentence still needs a subject. The best answer is D, my friend. Be careful of present participle. A present participle is the ing form of the verb talking, playing. In the structured section of the TOEFL test, a present participle can cause confusion because it can be either a part of the verb or an adjective. Example: the man is talking to friend. Is talking is verb. The man talking to his friend has a bit. Talking adjective. In this sentence, talking is an adjective, not an adjective and not part of the verb because it is not accompanied by some form of be. The verb this sentence is has. Participle. Past participle can cause confusion in the structure section of the TOEFL test because a past participle can be either an adjective or a part of a verb. The past participle is the form of the verb that appears with have or be. It often at and in ed, but there are also many irregular past participle in English. The example: the family has purchased a television. In the first sentence, the past participle is part of the verb because it is accompanied by has. In the second sentence, the past participle written is part of the verb because it is accompanied by was. A past participle is an adjective when it is not accompanied by some form of be or have. The example: the television purchased yesterday was expensive. In the first sentence, purchased is an adjective rather than a verb because It is not accompanied by a form of be or have. With multiple clauses. Many sentences in English have more than one clause. A clause is a group of words containing a subject and a verb. Whenever you fit a sentence on the TOEFL test with more than one clause, you need to make sure that every subject has a verb and every verb has a subject. Use coordinate connectors correctly. The example: Tom is singing and Paul is dancing. In each of these examples, there are two clauses that are correctly joined with a coordinate conjunction: and, but, or, so, and, yet, and comma. The following example shows how this sentence pattern could be tested in the structure section of the TOEFL test. The example: a power failure occurred, blah blah blah, the lights went out. A. Then B. So C. Later D. Next. In this example, you should notice quickly that there are two clauses: a power failure occurred and the lights went out. This sentence needs a connector to join the two clauses. Then, later and need are not connectors. So, answer A, C, and D are not correct. The best answer is answer B, because so can connect to clause. Use adverb, time, and cause connector correctly. Sentence with adverb clause have two basic patterns in English. Study the cause and connector in the following sentence. Example: I will sing the check before you leave. In each this example, there are two clauses: you leave and I will sing the check. In the clause you leave in a adverb times clause because it is introduced with the connector before. In the first example, the connector before comes in the middle of the sentence and no comma. The following example shows how this sentence pattern could be tested in the structure section of the subject of the TOEFL test. The example: blah 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 was late. I missed the appointment. A. I. B. Because C. The train. D. Sent her. He. In this example, you should recognize easily that there is a verb was that needs a subject. There is also another clause. I missed the appointment. If you choose answer A or answer C, you will have a subject for the verb was, but you will not have a connector to join the two clauses because you need a connector to join two clauses. Answer A and C are incorrect. Answer B is incorrect because there is not subject for the verb was. Answer D is the best answer because there is a subject he for the verb was and there is a connector since to join the two clauses. Use other adverb connector correctly. Example, I will leave at 7:00 if I am ready. In each of these examples, there are two clauses that are correctly joined with adverb connectors. In the first sentence, the adverb condition connector if comes in the middle of the sentence. In the second sentence, the adverb contrast connector also comes at the beginning of the sentence and a comma is used in the middle of the sentence. More sentences will multiply clauses as we saw in skill 9 to 8. Many sentences in English have more than one clause, and skill 9 to 12 we will see more patterns for connecting the clauses in sentence with multi-clauses. Skill 9. Use noun clause connectors correctly. Example, I know when he will arrive. In the first example, there are two clauses, I know and he will arrive. These two clauses are joined with the connector when. When changes the clause he will arrive into a noun clause that functions as the object of the verb know. The following example shows how this sentence pattern could be tested in the structure section of the TOEFL test. The example, blah blah blah, was on television made me agree. A. It. B. The story. C. What. D. When. In this example, you should notice immediately that there are two verbs, was and meet, and each of those verbs need a subject. Answer B, A, and B are incorrect because it and the story cannot be the subject for both was and meet at the same time. Answer D is incorrect because when is not a subject. In answer C, what refers at both the subject of the verb was and the connector that join the two clauses together. The noun clause what was on television is the subject of the verb made. Answer C is therefore the best answer.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Miss Bahul Jannah. I would like to continue the first speaker explanation. For the first, I will tell about use adjective clause connector or subjects correctly. In this skill, we will see that in some case an adjective clause connector is not just a connector. An adjective clause connector can also be the subject of the clause at the same time. For example, the woman is filling the glass that is on the table. In this example, there are two clauses. For the first is woman is the subject of the verb is filling, and the second is that is the subject of the verb is. These two clauses are joined with the connector that. Okay, for the next example is blah 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 is on the table has 4 sections. A. The notebook. The next is use reduced adjective clauses correctly. Adjective clauses can appear in a reduced form. In the reduced form, the adjective clause, connector, and the be verb that directly follow it are omitted, such as the letter which was written last week arrived today. The sentence may be used in the complete form or in the reduced form. The reduced form, the connector who, which, or that is omitted along with be verb is or was. If there is no be verb in the adjective clause, it is still possible to have a reduced form. When there is no be verb in the adjective clause, the connector is omitted and the verb is changed into the ing form. For example, blah 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 on several different television programs. The witness gave conflicting of what had happened. A. He appeared. B. Who appeared. C. Appearing. D. Appears. In this example, the correct answer is C, because it is the reduced form of the clause who appeared, and this reduced form can appear at the front of the sentences of the sentence. The next is use reduced adverb clauses correctly. Adverb clauses can also appear in a reduced form. In the reduced form, adverb connector remains, but the subject and be verb are omitted, such as although he feels rather sick, the speaker will take part in the seminar. This example may be used in either the complete or reduced form. In the reduced form, the adverb connectors although remain. The subject he as well as the be verb is omitted. If there is no be verb in the adverb clause, it is still possible to have a reduced form. When there is no be verb in the adverb clause, the subject is omitted and the main verb is changed into the ing form. The example of this skill is when blah blah blah, you are free to leave. What is the correct answer? The correct answer is B, because this answer is the reduced form of the clause when you are finished with the report. Okay, the next is invert the subject and verb with question words. There is some confusion about when to invert the subject and verb after question words, such as what, when, where, why, and how. These words can have two very different functions in a sentence. First, they can introduce a question, and in this case, the subject and verb that follow are inverted. The question word that can introduce a question such as what is the homework? This word can join together two clauses, but in this case, the subject and verb that follow are not inverted. Like, I don't know what the homework is. In this example, there are two clauses joined by a question word. Notice that the subjects are verb and verbs that follow the question words what, when, and where are not inverted in this case. The example question for TOEFL test, like the lawyer asked the client why blah 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 it. From this question, the correct answer is C. Why? Because why here used to connect the two clauses, so subject and verb are needed after this connector. This is not a question, so the subject and verb should not be inverted. Okay, next is invert the subject and verb with place expression. After ideas expressing place, the subject and the verb sometimes invert in English. This can happen with single words expressing place, such as here, there, and no here. The example question for this skill is on the second level of the parking lot, blah blah blah. What is the best answer for this question? The best answer is D. Why D? Because the subject and verb in D should be inverted because the place expression is necessary to complete the idea some empty stalls are. Invert the subject and verb with negatives. The subject and verb can also be inverted after certain negatives and related expression. When negative expressions such as no, not, and never come at the beginning of a sentence, the subject and verb are inverted. The example question is only in extremely dangerous situations, blah blah blah, stop. What is the best answer? The best answer for this question is D. Why D? Because D contains a correctly inverted subject and verb with the helping verb will, the subject printing presses, and the main verb be. So answer D is the best answer. Invert the subject and verb with conditionals. In certain conditional structure, the subject and verb may also be inverted. This can occur when the helping verb in the conditional clause is had, should, or were, and the conditional connector if is omitted. The example question is, the report would have been accepted blah 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 in checking in accuracy. In this example, a connector if and a subject and verb are needed. But if could be omitted and the subject and verb inverted, answer A is incorrect because it contains the connector if and the subject care but no verb. Answer B is incorrect because it contains the subject care and the verb had been taken but doesn't have a connector. In answer C and D, if has been omitted but because it is correct to invert the subject more care and the helping verb had. The best answer for this question is D. Invert the subject and verb with comparisons. An inverted subject and verb may occur also after a comparison. The inversion of subject and verb after a comparison is optional rather than required, and it is a rather formal structure. There have been a number of inverted comparisons on recent TOEFL tests, so we should be familiar with this structure. The example question for this skill is: the result of the current experiment appear to be more consistent than blah 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 the result of any previous test. In this example, we should know the comparison more consistent than, and we should also understand that the result of the current experiment is being compared with the result of any previous test. Because the result of any previous test is the subject, only a verb is needed. The best answer to this question is answer B. We know that it is possible for a subject and a verb to be inverted after a comparison, and in this case, the result of any previous test comes after the verb where. Make verbs agree after prepositional phrase. Sometimes prepositional phrase can come between the subject and the verb if the object of the prepositional is singular and the subject is plural, or if the object of the prepositional is plural and the subject is singular. There can be confusion in making the subject and verb agree. Here there are two examples. The first sentence is: the key to the doors are in the drawer. And for the second is: the keys to the door is in the drawer. In the first example, we might think the doors is the subject because it comes directly in front of the verb are. However, doors is not the subject because it is the object of the preposition to. The subject of the sentence is key, so the verb should be is. In the second example, we might think that the door is the subject because it comes directly in front of the verb is. We should recognize in this example the door is not the subject because it is the object of the preposition to. Because the subject of the sentence is case, the verb should be are. I think that's all from me. I'm so sorry if there are many mistakes. Thank you for your nice attention. The last I say, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Hosnul Halimatu Sadia. Here I'm as the last speaker and I wanna continue my friend's explanation. about make verbs agree after expressions of quantity. A particular agreement problem occurs when the subject is an expression of quantity, such as all, most, or some, followed by the preposition of. In this situation, the subject like all, most, or some can be singular or plural, depending on the follows the preposition of. For example, all of the book was interesting. The subject all here refers to the singular noun book. So the correct verb is, therefore the singular verb is was. For the second example, all of the books were interesting. The subject all refers to the plural noun books, because the books is more than one. So the correct verb is the plural verb were. For the third example, all of the information was interesting. All refers to the uncountable noun information. So information here is uncountable noun. So the correct verb is therefore the singular verb was. Okay, the next is make inverted verbs agree. When the subject and verb are inverted, it can be difficult to locate them, and it can therefore be a problem to make them agree. For example, behind the house was the bicycles I wanted. From that example, we easy to think that house is the subject because it comes directly in front of the verb was. House is not the subject. However, because it is the object of the preposition behind, the subject of the sentence is bicycle, and the subject bicycles come after the verb because. Of the place expression behind the house. Because the subject bicycle is plural, the verb should be changed to the plural were. Okay, the next is make inverted verbs agree. When the subject and verb are inverted, it can be difficult to locate them, and it can therefore be a problem to make them agree. For example, behind the house was the bicycles I wanted. From that example, we easy to think that house is the subject because it comes directly in front of the verb was. House is not the subject. However, because it is the object of the preposition behind, the subject of the sentence is bicycle, and the subject bicycles come after the verb because. Of the place expression behind the house. Because the subject bicycle is plural, the verb should be changed to the plural were. And the next, make verbs agree after certain word. Certain words in English are always grammatically singular, even though they might have plural meanings. For example, everybody are going to the theater. Even though we understand from this example that a lot of people are going to the theater, everybody here is singular and requires a singular verb. The plural verb are going should be changed to the singular verb is going. Okay, the next is make inverted verbs agree. When the subject and verb are inverted, it can be difficult to locate them, and it can therefore be a problem to make them agree. For example, behind the house was the bicycles I wanted. From that example, we easy to think that house is the subject because it comes directly in front of the verb was. House is not the subject. However, because it is the object of the preposition behind, the subject of the sentence is bicycle, and the subject bicycles come after the verb because of the place expression behind the house. Because the subject bicycle is plural, the verb should be changed to the plural were. The next problems with parallel structure. In good English, an attempt should be made to make the language as even and balanced as possible. This balance is called parallel structure. You can achieve parallel structure by making the form of words as similar as possible. For example, I like to sing and dancing. The problem in this sentence is not the expression to sing, and the problem is not the word dancing. The expression to sing is correct by itself, and the word dancing is correct by itself. Both of the following sentences are correct. So, that example is called parallel structure. The next, use parallel structure with coordinate conjunctions. The job of the coordinate conjunctions, such as and, but, or, is to join together equal expressions. In other words, what is on one side of this word must be parallel to what is on the other side. These conjunctions can join nouns, or verbs, or adjectives, or phrase, or subordinate clause, or main clause. They just must join together two of the same thing. For example, I need to talk to the manager or the assistant manager. Here, the word manager and assistant manager is parallel structure, and or here is coordinate conjunction. The other example,
From exercise, each of the following sentences contains words or groups of words that should be parallel. Circle the word that indicate that the sentence should have parallel parts. Underline the parts that should be parallel. Then indicate if the sentences are correct or incorrect. For example, she held jobs as a typist, a housekeeper, and in a restaurant. This sentence incorrect. Why? Because in the first sentence is talk about job, typist, and housekeeper. But after conjunction and not job but place. In a restaurant, this is place, not jobs. So this sentence don't have same structure, so this sentence is incorrect. Next, use parallel structure with paired conjunctions. The paired conjunctions consist of both blah 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 and, so both match with and. Either blah 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 or neither blah 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 nor, and not only blah 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 but also require parallel structure. For example, I want both this book or that one. These sentences are incorrect. Why? Because the wrong parts of the paired conjunctions are used together. And or both here in the sentence should be used with and. So it must be I want both this book and that one. Next, about use parallel structure with comparisons. When you make a comparison, the point out is about the similarities or differences between two things, and those similarities or differences must be in parallel form. You can recognize a comparison showing how two things are different from the blah 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 then, or the more blah 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 than. For example, my school is farther than your school. So this is the comparison, both my school and your school. The other example, a comparison showing how two things are the same might contain as blah 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 as, or expression such as the same as or similar to. For example, their car is as big as a small house. So this is compare their car with small house. Next is about problems with comparatives and superlatives. Form comparatives and superlatives correctly. The comparative is formed with either AR or more and than. In the comparative, AR is used with short adjectives such as tall, and more is used with longer adjectives such as beautiful. For example, Bob is taller than Ron. And the superlatives is formed with the, either, ast, or most, and sometimes in, of, or a that clause. In the superlative, ast is used with short adjectives such as tall, and most is used with longer adjectives such as beautiful. For example, Bob is the tallest man in the room. Next is use comparatives and superlatives correctly. The comparative is used to compare two equal things. For example, the history class is the larger than the math class. The history class is being compared with the math class. And the superlative is used when there are more than two items to compare and you want to show the one that is the best, the biggest, or in some way the most outstanding. For example, the history class is the largest in the school. So, the history class here is compared with all the other classes in the school, and the history class is larger than each of the other classes. Next, use the irregular AR structure correctly. An irregular comparative structure that has been appearing frequently on the TOEFL test consists of two parallel comparatives introduced by the. For example, the harder he tried, the farther he fell behind. That example contains two parallel comparatives. The harder and the farther. Next, about problems with the form of the verb. It is common in the written expression part of the TOEFL test for the verbs to be formed incorrectly. Therefore, you should check the form of the verb carefully. You should be familiar with the following verb forms: the past form, the present tense, the present participle, and the past participle. You should be particularly aware of the following three problematic situations with verbs because they are the most common and the easiest to correct. For the first, check what comes after have. The second, check what comes after be. And third, check what comes after will, would, and other modals. Next, about problems with the form of the verb. It is common in the written expression part of the TOEFL test for the verbs to be formed incorrectly. Therefore, you should check the form of the verb carefully. You should be familiar with the following verb forms: the past form, the present tense, the present participle, and the past participle. And also, you should be particularly aware of the following three problematic situations with verbs because they are the most common and the easiest to correct. For the first, check what comes after have. The second, check what comes after be. And third, check what comes after will, would, and other modals. For example, after have, use the past participle. The example is, we have seen the show. That is incorrect. So, the sentence should be, we have seen the show. Like that. The other example from exercise is, before she left, she had asked her mother for permission. This sentence is correct because the sentence depends on verb form after have. Have plus participle because the sentence complete, she had asked her mother for permission. Because this sentence is complete, so use had. And next, about after be, use the present participle or the past participle. The verb be in any of its forms, such as I'm, is, are, was, were, be, been, and being, can be followed by another verb. This verb should be in the present participle or the past participle form. For example, we are do our homework. The sentence incorrect and should be, we are doing our homework. So, do change to doing. Because the verb form after be is be plus present participle or past participle. And the last is after will, would, or other modals, use the best form of the verb. Whenever using a modal such as will, would, shall, should, can, could, may, might, or must, you should be sure that the verb that follows it is in its best form. For example, the doctor may arrive soon. The sentence incorrect and should be the doctor may arrive. Okay, maybe just it the explanation from our group. We are so sorry if there are many mistakes, and thank you for nice attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.